fuck it, man. And rather than go back and make the movies that I wanted to make, I just walked away instead. So what really disillusioned me was this. I've had some time to think about it. Nobody ever really got through that was a paycheck player before. Everybody that I made a movie with loved being there, wanted to be there and stuff. And this was the only guy that was there for a paycheck. And I think that's what like bugged me the most. And it shouldn't, it's a business. Some people do it just for the paycheck and whatnot. But you know, when they do it, they actually do it. They don't phone it in and shit. So hands down, I would say that guy. But it's in the, I don't wish him poorly or anything like that. You know, I just never want to be near him ever again. You know what really sucked about it, honestly, was I was a huge Moonlighting fan and a huge Die Hard fan, and would watch them multiple times every year. And after Cop Out, I dropped them in the garbage and shit like that, because I knew I'd never look at them again. Bummer. Anyway, fuck that. That's in the past. Ask me a happy question.
Okay. Which is your favorite of your own movies?
Oh, that's fun. All right, that's fine. Let's see, what is the one I like the most? I mean, of course, naturally, I want to say Tusk, because it's the movie we just made, and I feel Tusk is the best film I ever made. But honestly, it might be Clerks 2. I love Clerks 2 very dearly. Some people do. Some people think it's an inferior sequel to the original, and I'm like, did you see the original? But yeah, I love it. It stood for so much. And after we made it, aside from making the movie and saying what I wanted to say, years later it re-gifted me, because it was Dante and Randall. It was like I was watching the movie one night, man, because I love that monologue that Jeff Anderson gives in the jail cell. I think he crushed it. And it was that moment. I always love that moment in the movie where Randall's like, I bought a Quick Stop and reopen it myself. And it took me years to figure out that that's what I wanted to do too. I wrote it into those characters and stuff, and I would be so happy when I watched the movie going, oh, it worked out for these guys, like they're real, and like I didn't write it or something. And then it took me years later, I figured out, oh shit, all I wanted to do is buy the Quick Stop, so to speak, and reopen it myself. Like I priced myself out of doing anything interesting, making interesting movies, because you work in the movie business long enough, they pre-negotiate your salaries and shit like that. It's not a bad thing, it's a wonderful thing. You know what you're gonna make from movie to movie, but I don't make movies that like pay out, man. I make very weird movies that like, if they work, yay, but they're not guaranteed to work. I'm not a mainstream guy. So generally speaking, give a person like me very little money. You know, I'll be creative as fuck with very little money, necessity being the mother of invention. But if you give me a lot of money and stuff, then there's pressure to deliver. And I don't come from that world, man. The people that I'm from, we never deliver, ever, ever. Like my father would be like, son, you see that mountain? Never climb it. What's the fucking point? Someone will take a picture and send it down. Like, so I don't come from like adventurous people and shit like that at all. And when shit worked out for me with the first movie, it was great, and it kickstarted a career and whatnot. But after a while, I started making less and less interesting films for two reasons. One, I priced myself out of doing interesting things by having the salary I had. And two, honestly, like I ran out of like shit to say. Like those movies, you look at the early movies, the Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dog, all that shit. It's, and Jane, Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2 especially, not movies really. And believe me, every critic in the world will be like, he's right, he's finally admitting it. They're not movies as much as like, it was me pulling out fatty chunks of my heart, sticking it on two platters, projecting it, and being like, what do you think? You know, they're blogs. They're me trying to communicate. It's me trying to say, does anyone out there feel this way? And blah, blah, blah. It's me learning my craft, and I was in my 20s, and I was at my most raw, and anything I felt, I put right into the scripts and whatnot. So that was me at my choice and shit, my best. But then I like got happy. Like Chasing Amy comes from a miserable place and stuff. And everyone's like, you should do another Chasing Amy. I'm like, no, I'd rather be happy and shit. In order for me to make another Chasing Amy, my wife would have to do something miserable to me and stuff. So I got married, I've got a kid, life's pretty good, like I got no complaints. And happy people generally don't make good art and stuff. So I got to a place where I ran out of shit to say, because I didn't have any personal story to tell. Like, I was done talking about working in the convenience store because I'd said everything. I was done talking about male insecurity by way of Chasing Amy. I was done talking about religion by way of Dogma, and then later on Red State to some degree and stuff. So, I just kind of like priced myself out of saying interesting things, and it left me in a weird quandary. And then I realized that if I just kind of scale the budgets back, I can say anything I want. Like I can, as long as the money is very low, you can be interesting again and shit. And so at that point I was just kind of like, all right, maybe I can try it again. That's what brought me back to it. But it was the thought of like, I can't say anything anymore unless, like, you know, if I was a painter, I could take a canvas, put color on it, and you'd know how I felt. If I was a singer, I'd open my mouth and sing and shit. But I'm a fucking goofy filmmaker, which means, like, I'm the only artist on the planet, that breed of artist, that says, I need to express myself. Give me $20 million and Ben Affleck, you know. That's why I love podcasts, because you can just sit there and pour yourself into it, do whatever you want, doesn't take any preparation, doesn't take any money and shit. I want to have a conversation. I sit down with you, we start talking, boom, it winds up going places. So I kind of like, aside from the, you know, kind of priced myself out of doing anything interesting, I was at such peace, I had nothing really of interest to say based on the way I used to work. I didn't have something to give them, some piece of my heart to put into the work, because otherwise the work would have said like, life's fucking good when you make Clerks, bitch, woo! You know, and that's, nobody wants to hear that. So at the end of the day, I felt like, oh, I just didn't have anything to say. Then I realized, one day I was sitting there going, well, movies I loved before I made Clerks and stuff like that were David Lynch movies, David Cronenberg movies, the Coen brothers and shit, and some of my favorite filmmakers, Quentin. They don't make movies where they pull pieces of their heart and put it on platters and shit. They just make shit up, man. Like, they don't sit there and go, this happened to me, I did work at a convenience store, or I did date a girl like this, or something like that. They just make shit up. Like, I sat there going, George Lucas didn't know any Wookiees, he just made that shit up. So it's like, maybe I could just make that shit up. And, you know, I could reach this place in my career, 20 years of making films, where I actually had the ability to make a film. Like Malcolm Gladwell says, 10,000 hours of practice of anything will make you somewhat good at it, even if you're not trying. So I'd become somewhat adept at making a film, and I just didn't have anything to say. But then all of a sudden I was like, I'll make shit up. Like a guy tries to turn another guy into a walrus, woohoo, you know? And suddenly I was off and running again. So, you know, I guess it was kind of my fault. Or I'd gotten to a place where I had to step away. Everything I had stepped away to do allowed me to come back and stuff. I forgot what the fuck you asked. Did I hit the answer anywhere in there or no?
At the beginning.
I tend to overcompensate, kid, you know? When you're a fat guy, you do that, you know? The downside is you over-answer a question. The good side, the upside, I hate pussy like you read it out. Forgot he was 13. Thank you for buying that Clerk shirt, man. That rocks my... You're too young to be wearing a Clerk shirt, but that gives me hope and shit. Right? He's like, yeah, whatever. Hello to Catch a Predator? The fat man just told me he eats pussy really well. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Alright, I got a quick little two-parter.
Fire away.
I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and how do you get the motivation to write sometimes?
How do I get the motivation to write? I don't know, every once in a while you just remember, like, oh my Lord, this is the closest I'll ever come to playing God. Because you sit there with something blank, a page, your laptop, whatever, and you just start filling it with words and what people would say, and you just slowly build this universe and build this reality. And then the fun is, can you finish it? And then the fun of that is like, can you turn it into a movie? What will it sound like if people say it? So for me, it's kind of the thrill. And when I'm writing something, when I'm into it, like I get up every morning with the real purpose of like, oh, I can't wait to get back to it because it's so fucking satisfying. So I've never had the problem of getting started. Whether it's good or not, you know, fucking who knows. But like getting started's never been a problem for me. Maybe, if anything, just try the joy of creation. Just like, holy shit, man. Like the fact that you're...
Weed.
What is it?
I already smoke weed.
There's that as well. But the joy of creation more is just the idea that you're like, that you have the thought at all, that you're like, I want to do something. That already separates you from most people, because most people are content to be the audience. But you had a moment where you're just like, I want to tell a story. So you're on your path, man. And the easiest thing in the world to do at this point is to suddenly be like, it's too hard. Or because it doesn't happen easily, you just kind of give it up and shit. You're so close, right? Like they say the journey of a million miles begins with a fucking single step, right? And the single step sometimes is just that. Like, how do I fucking write? What makes me motivated? What makes me want to write? What makes me do it and stuff? I don't know what the answer is, like what's gonna make you write or whatever. Force yourself though. sometimes you gotta push yourself for the first step. Take it with a grain of salt. It's coming from a guy who never takes the first step on a treadmill, which would, have lasting effects and shit. But taking that first fucking step is the hardest thing in the world. I know it. But when it comes to writing, man, that's a beautiful, easy step. It's one of those things where you just gotta let yourself fall off the cliff. There's no wrong, right? It's like you can't fuck up. Nobody's gonna see it if you don't show it to them. And even if you show it to them, there still is no wrong. It's your self-expression. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the easier it does come. So force yourself, man. Sit down every day and just be like, I'm gonna take a half an hour. Half an hour that I would use to jerk off, today I'm gonna use to write. And if I write in that half hour, I get to jerk off twice today. Make a game of it, inspire yourself. That's the one question, what's the other?
Have you ever smoked a bowl with a fan, and if not, would you?
Have I ever smoked a bowl with a fan? No, I'm a joint man, but I have smoked joints with the fans every once in a while. Not now, we're talking. But maybe later on and stuff. I'm that guy, absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
I just want to say my boyfriend doesn't swear at all. I enjoy swearing, but you are far beyond any language that I would ever use. But yet, this year we discovered Hollywood